50 years ago, we were introduced to a show where growing up felt real, raw, and full of heart. What's Happening 1976 captured the laughter, the struggles, and the unforgettable moments of Black teenage life. Today, we're taking a journey back to see how the faces behind the magic have changed since then. Stepping into the block is Ernest Lee Thomas as Roger Thomas, a 17-year-old Black teen juggling school, family, and the streets of South Central LA in the late 70s. Roger wasn't perfect. He hustled for cash, helped his boys out of trouble, and tried to navigate life without getting crushed by it. He argued, joked, and pushed back when the world tried to make him small, showing young Black men that brains, wit, and heart mattered, even when survival was messy. Girls noticed him, peers respected him, and he carried the energy of a generation, figuring out how to rise without losing themselves. Today, Ernest Lee Thomas still carries that presence, mentoring, talking to young people, sharing the real struggles of growing up Black, and showing that Roger Thomas wasn't just a kid on TV. He was proof that surviving, thinking, laughing, and standing tall is possible. Walking the streets and schoolyards in 1970 South Central LA, you find Haywood Nelson as Dwayne Nelson, a 17-year-old Black teen whose cool, laid-back swagger made him everyone's favorite sidekick. Dwayne wasn't just easy on the eyes or funny, he carried himself with a quiet pride, a kid figuring out how to be seen and respected in a city that tested you every day. He laughed, teased, and schemed with his friends, but he also learned responsibility, loyalty, and what it meant to do right, even when the streets pulled you the other way. Young Black men could see themselves in him, balancing ambition, friendship, and identity while keeping their heart intact. Today, Haywood Nelson carries that same energy, sharing stories, connecting with fans, and showing that Dwayne Nelson wasn't just a teen on screen. He was a blueprint for surviving adolescence, standing tall, and moving through life with humor, loyalty, and pride. Right in the mix of blocks and schoolyards of South Central in the late 70s, you meet Danielle Spencer as Dee Thomas, a 12-year-old Black girl who wasn't just the youngest in the house. She was sharp, sassy, and impossible to ignore. Dee Thomas had a voice, a mind, and a courage beyond her years, calling out her older brother Roger, keeping up with his crew, and speaking truths most adults would listen to twice. She balanced curiosity and mischief, learning the streets, school, and family life all at once. Black kids saw themselves in her, smart, funny, trying to hold their own, and carving space where adults didn't always notice. Today, Danielle Spencer carries that energy, reminding us that Dee Thomas wasn't just a character. She was a kid whose wit, heart, and intelligence reflected a generation, showing that even the youngest voices in the neighborhood could matter, influence, and leave a lasting mark. Rolling through the streets and schoolyards of 1970 South Central, you meet Fred Barry as Frederick Rerun Stubbs, a 16-year-old Black teen whose energy, laughter, and moves made him impossible to forget. Rerun wasn't just funny, he carried joy in a world that could feel heavy, turning everyday life into something lighter with his jokes, dance, and timing. He had heart, loyalty, and a playful courage, always there for Roger and Dwayne, navigating school, neighborhood struggles, and family with humor and authenticity. Black teens saw themselves in him, larger than life, unapologetically himself, and finding ways to survive and shine, even when the system or the streets tried to hold them back. Today, Fred Barry's legacy lives on in every memory of Rerun. His humor, rhythm, and warmth continue to inspire, showing that being real, funny, and bold is power. Even decades later, Rerun reminds us to laugh, move, and keep our hearts open. Stepping onto the block, you meet Debbie Morgan as Diane Harris, a 16-year-old Black teen navigating school, friends, and the ups and downs of teenage life with confidence and smarts. Diane wasn't quiet or shy. She had opinions, sass, and a style that made you take notice. She could tease, push back, and laugh without losing her sense of self. Her charm wasn't just about looks. It was a shield, a tool, and a way to carve out space in a world that often tried to shrink young Black women. Diane represented ambition, independence, and the struggle to be seen and respected while figuring out who you are. Today, Debbie Morgan carries that same presence off-screen, with a career spanning decades and activism that uplifts the community. Diane Harris still resonates, showing that intelligence, wit, and courage can coexist, and that young Black women's voices, loud, clever, and real, have always mattered. Setting foot into South Central's Corner Diner, you meet Earl Billings as Rob, or Robbie, the man whose calm presence kept the Black grounded. In his mid-40s, Rob wasn't just running a diner. He was a steady hand in a neighborhood full of energy, chaos, and teenage schemes. He listened, advised, and guided, giving Roger, Dwayne, Rerun, and the others a space to be themselves while learning lessons about life, respect, and choices. Rob represented Black men who worked hard, carried responsibility, and quietly shaped their communities without fanfare. He could correct, joke, or challenge the kids, but always with care and a clear sense of fairness. Today, Earl Billings' Rob still resonates. The diner may have been fictional, but the man he portrayed, patient, grounded, dependable, reflects the mentors, uncles, and community figures who nurtured and protected neighborhoods. Rob reminds us that steadiness, wisdom, and humanity leave marks that last long after the lights go down. In the heart of the Thomas household, you feel the presence of Mabel King as Mabel Thomas, the 40-something mother holding her family together with patience, toughness, and love. Mabel wasn't just a mom, she was the anchor, the voice of reason, and the force keeping kids, husbands, and neighbors in check. Between school fights, Roger's schemes, and neighborhood chaos, she balanced discipline with warmth, showing what it meant to raise Black kids with pride in their culture and self-worth. Mabel represented Black mothers everywhere, juggling work, family, and survival while teaching lessons that stuck, sometimes sternly, sometimes with a laugh, always with heart. Today, Mabel King's impact endures. Even after her passing, audiences remember Mabel Thomas as a woman who demanded respect, cared fiercely, and shaped generations with her guidance. She reminds us that holding it all together takes grit, love, and presence, and that the women behind the families often carry the weight of the world with grace and strength. Walking into Rob's diner, you meet Shirley Hemphill as Shirley Wilson, a 30-something Black woman whose voice, humor, and no-nonsense attitude could stop a conversation in its tracks. Shirley wasn't just serving tables, she commanded respect, kept folks in line, and made her presence felt with a mix of sharp wit and heart. She spoke truth, called people out, and offered guidance when it mattered, all while juggling the grind of work and life in the neighborhood. Shirley represented Black women who carried toughness with care, who could laugh and scold in the same breath, and who made sure the kids knew right from wrong without sugarcoating it. Today, Shirley Hemphill's legacy lives on. Even after her passing, fans remember Shirley Wilson's energy, confidence, and humor. A woman who could hold a room, challenge the youth, and still make you feel seen. She's a reminder that real strength comes with presence, courage, and unapologetic authenticity. And that's our journey. Through the jokes, the chaos, the first crushes, and the heartfelt lessons that made Raj, Dwayne, Rerun, and the rest feel like family. If seeing them again reminded you why this show shaped so many lives, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. This was What's Happening 1976, Cast Then and Now 2026. Until our next trip down memory lane, laugh often, dream big, and never forget those good times.